right, everyone. Welcome to the first edition of Inside the Chrome Dome with Todd Herman. I'm here to talk to Chris Tucker.
Inside the Chrome Dome. We could do this. We could do this.
When I launch my show, which is going to be called Between the Ears, for your episode, it'll be Inside the Chrome Dome.
I love it. Todd Herman's in the house, my fellow Youpreneurs. Welcome back to another...
You got to leave that opening.
Oh, totally. We don't edit stuff at Youpreneur. No, everybody knows this. It's great to have you guys back for another monthly chit-chat. I'm sitting down with the man, the myth, the legend, the incomparable Todd Herman.
Yeah.
And
you have to tag me that way on Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. That's
everywhere.
It's the only way I'll respond.
Yeah, incomparable, particularly. Yeah. Todd is all about high performance. He's about helping people build the best version of themselves, no matter what they're doing, and a whole lot more as well. The new book, The Alter Ego Effect, massive bestseller, tons and tons of chit-chatter about it all over the internet, both during as well as after launch as well. Congratulations on that, because it's not easy to launch a book that successfully. You've been traveling around everywhere. You've been speaking on stages everywhere.
Yeah. I
have one question I want to kickstart with straight away, and it's from my own weird sort of just
personal experience.
What's your worst speaking experience of all time?
Yeah. We were chatting about this just quickly beforehand because
it's quite close to each other. Right. Yeah.
So about 15, 16 years ago, I was speaking at the largest gathering of like student associations in America, like Greek fraternities, sororities, the leaders.
How many people?
There's about 13,000 people at the
Okay.
MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Right.
And I'm doing a talk to them on the power of first impression and how to get into the mental game of winning your interviews and stuff, like basically preparing them for life after university.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm up there, and I'm about 3 minutes before I'm closing, and I catch myself up on the big, massive jumbotrons,
right,
and notice that my fly is not just down, but I'm like singing the songs to the universe wide open type of thing. And now,
this has been like this the entire speech?
The entire time.
How long is the speech?
I don't typically unzip in the middle of a speech. Like that would be weirder. So
no, just for the last couple
typically,
of minutes, Chris.
If it's a special crowd, 100%, you throw in a little bit of extra.
You're kind of feeling the vibe.
Yeah.
Right.
So I catch myself, but my one skill from playing sports and being around sports a lot is the ability to like think quick.
Okay.
Trash talk, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so I ended my talk with now.
Oh, go.
A lot of you would have noticed that the guy that's been standing up here talking about the value of a first impression has had his fly down the entire time. And what most of you would have lost then because of that is the value of the content that I just shared with you. Because you were snickering to your friends, you were giggling or laughing about it, or just rolling your eyes in your head like, this guy's an absolute idiot. And so if you take nothing else away, it's that is the value of first impression.
This is good.
And everyone just like, you could see, actually, there was this one row where it was almost like a domino effect of people just going like,
oh, he had us going the whole time.
Yeah. And so I walk off stage, and like they were going crazy. So I walk off stage, and the organizer of the event, she looked at me and she said, "You're either the smartest guy I've ever met, or you're the fastest thinker. I don't know which one it is." And I said, "It ain't the smartest."
What a great story. I that didn't happen with me. I don't think that quickly. I waited. I did a 45-minute session at the National Speakers Association in Philadelphia in front of a room full of other speakers who should all know better.
Yeah.
And one lady came up to me after I'd signed a load of books and talked to a ton of people. And we were talking half an hour after the speeches ended.
Yeah.
Did you know your flyers are down? The whole time. I'm posing for selfies and shit. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And then my response back to her would have been just simply like, "Yeah, but was the speech good?"
Yeah. Actually, she did say there was some good stuff in there.
How was my diction?
So
How was my diction? It was good.
How was my diction? Yeah. I don't know.
It's a good word.
Where do we go from here?
Let's just talk about words. Like words that we like and don't like.
Well, okay. Which word do you really like? What's one of your favorite words? This is high quality content. This is why they pay the memberships every month. This is it.
Well, this is how you get inside of people's heads. Word that I really, really like is, and I bring it up, and all of a sudden I'm getting stumped. Okay, so behind the scenes here, gang. I just came over on a flight from New York. My seat was broken and didn't recline, so I'm lacking a little bit of sleep right now.
Yeah.
But umbrous.
Umbrous?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good word.
Yeah.
It's a good word.
I like. There's a couple. One of them is flabbergasted. I like flabbergasted quite a bit. I don't use it anywhere near as much as I should.
I think it's the flabber in it. Not as much the gasted. The flabber in it is good.
I also love willy-nilly.
Oh,
Yeah.
You're a willy-nilly guy.
Yeah.
You're totally willy-nilly.
True story, you'll love this. At the first ever tropical think tank over in the Philippines, we have Amy Porterfield, John Lee Dumas, Pat Flynn, a whole bunch of other people speaking. And I think it was Amy Porterfield that said, hey, let's have a secret word that we all have to drop on the stage, right? That only we will know, and let's see whether anyone else picks up on it. And Amy Porterfield picked penetration. So I was talking about virtual staff at this. I struggled horrifically to try and find the word, how I could put the word penetration.
Yeah.
I'm looking off camera at Morgan over here. I can't even remember how I did it, but I do remember that there were several very, very good sentences.
Some droppings.
Yeah, very, very good.
So on that note then, so
I hope it was Amy Porterfield. God, I'm pretty sure it was.
So there's a legendary copywriter, Gary Halbert.
Yes.
Like people revere him, and he's passed away now. But with one of the companies that I used to own back in 2007, I hired Gary to write us a sales page. And if you know anything about Gary Halbert's story, Gary was famous for making an absolute ton of money, then basically losing it all, and then making a ton of money again.
Right.
And I had caught him just after he was making a lot of money and was kind of coming back down the hill. And the reason he would start to lose a bunch of money is because he would go into these, Coke-fused or Coke-infused, basically, stupors.
Right.
So we would get on these calls, and he would just talk for 3 hours. And this is a legendary copywriter. The stories about him are hilarious. So we're on this one call this one time, and I need to get to other meetings.
Right.
And he's just not shutting up. So
he's got other ideas.
So he says to me, Todd, you want to know what one of the highest converting words is you could put in anything? A subject line, a headline, a sentence to connect the next sentence. And I was like, yeah, literally. 20-second pause. Throbbing. It's the highest converting word you can add in anything. Throbbing. So I was like, oh, that's fascinating. And I've shared this with a couple of other friends before, they're in the business community. And so
have they tried it?
Yes. And biggest open rates on subject lines.
Stop it.
Yeah. So one of my friends who's in the world of marketing, he works with local to mid-sized companies, and they manage a lot of their paid advertising.
When you're talking, I'm thinking about how I can use this word already.
So the very next day, because I was on his email list, and everyone resolved that they were going to use this. We were at a dinner. It's actually here in London, 5 years ago.
Okay.
I shared this. Alex Icon, and anyway, a bunch of others. And his headline said, "It was throbbing." ... And I was like, "Oh, this is well done."
Yes.
Well done.
Yes.
And then his sentence on his opener inside was, my head was throbbing. Oh. I had this wicked headache, all because of this one client, and that it was very kind of normalized all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's dead on. Gary's dead on. When you can use that word. So there you go. Flabbergasted.
Flabbergasted.
You didn't know that this was going on this direction.
I know, but it's
neither did anyone else
awesome.
Here. So there you go.
But this is what these are chit chats. Chit chats.
This is unwrapping the golden wrapper on the Ferrero Rocher.
Yeah, we're recording this at 4:45 in the afternoon. If we'd have started 15 minutes later, we could have been doing this over bourbon. I've done these over bourbon.
Yeah.
Can you drink bourbon before 5 p.m.? I mean, you can, but should you? I mean, is it?
I think the rules are very lax on bourbon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to stop right here and get some bourbon. Okay, so here's the thing. Alter ego effect.
Yeah.
At the Youpreneur Summit, and I've been very transparent with these guys, we're batching these videos, obviously. I mean, we're smart content creators ourselves. Over the weekend, tomorrow morning, in fact, you will be opening our 3rd annual Youpreneur Summit with your keynote, the Alter Ego Effect keynote, which I've seen in the flesh. You perform already, and it's great. I'm curious to know, I mean, obviously this book, this keynote, this movement, this focus of yours over the last couple of years, at least anyway, in terms of developing all this. This hasn't just said, oh, this would be a good idea. Like, this is something that has come out of decades of work from your end anyway. Can you, and I know you're going to do it on stage, but can you tell us the story of Martin Luther King?
Oh, yeah.
And because it's such a great story, and it's the realization that you had, holy crap, like if he did that, then anybody can do it, right?
So it was another event. It was actually the same year that I did the fly down. I was in San Antonio speaking at this big leadership event, and I was talking about how to lead the new millennial culture, because I had just spent 6-7 years, because I started in 97 working with young athletes, 12, 13, 14-year-olds that were all a part of that millennial crowd, and continued to advance, and I ended up getting to work with pro athletes. But I was talking about how to, like, what they actually need that's slightly different than, say, us, the Gen X generation. So I was up there talking about that, and through that kind of story journey that I was talking about, I had mentioned that when I got into my business, I was insecure about myself, and that this isn't really a big part of the story, but I was insecure, so I went and bought a pair of glasses, and that's who I stepped into was Super Richard in order to become the business leader.
So you put the glasses on.
And that's where the transformation happened. And I talk about it in the book. So anyway, I get off stage, and I'm talking to people afterwards, and this lady comes up and she said, I loved your talk, but specifically, I love that you wore fake glasses, because Martin wore fake glasses too. And I looked down at her badge, and it was Coretta Scott King, Martin Luther King's wife. And I was like, oh, really? And so then she went into she's like, yeah, even his friends don't know that, but when he would sit down to write, he would put on his glasses, his writing glasses, and that's when he would step into his distinguished self, this alter ego that he would use to write all of his speeches so that he could say the things that he wanted to say in order to go out there and lead a movement where he didn't want to personally, with his maybe own insecurities, get in the way of it, because he felt like it was so important, obviously. And, just that kind of, I had already started teaching others on the alter ego, like other athletes, because I kind of found that it was this golden thread weaving the best of the best together.
Were you calling it that particularly at the time?
No, at the time I was calling it character crafting.
Okay.
Yeah, crafting the character that's going to go out there, custom built to help you win on that field.
Right. Because you were working at the time like a lot of NFL guys.
Still work it was actually NFL came probably a couple years later, but at that time I was really big in the National Hockey League, Major League Baseball, and PGA, like the golf tours.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because at any one time I'll be big in one league and have less clients in another. So it just comes this way, because it's all that entire business is built off of referral only. You can only get to me via referral.
Right.
And that's because I don't share who I work with. That privacy, that like super high level of trust is really, and that's what drives that business. But but after that, then I was like, oh, wow. So that conversation actually led me to go and explore where it's applied outside of sport, because I actually thought it was a very sports specific thing,
right? Not
something that was like would be used as much in the world of business.
Yeah, fair comment. Yeah.
And so I just kind of kept on accumulating more and more stories of other people. And it's one of these things that, and other people have said it, they're like, I can't unsee this now. Now I see it in interviews where someone drops a line, and it would pretty much go unnoticed any other time. But now that you know about alter egos, they're like, oh my God, they just mentioned like persona or identity or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, because it's a part of the human condition. Like, we all do this. This is actually what our creative imagination, our real superpower, is built to do, is to create stories and narratives in our head. Most people just don't grab the steering wheel of it and steer it themselves towards what it is that they want to do or how they want to show up, because they feel trapped by some idea of who and what they are. And that alter ego it's just, for me, it became my number one weapon of choice when helping people make change happen really fast. Because when you change identity, you change everything.
Oh, totally. So where have you seen this? And obviously you can't name names, but where have you seen this work? Is there one particular type of person or one particular industry where you see this and it's an instant kind of change, like straight away, or is it a gradual thing regardless of what's going on?
100%. It's Black Americans.
Oh, really?
Black Americans
Really?
grab it faster than anyone else.
Why?
Because, and I've had these discussions with people on stages. I've said it, and I mean, this isn't about like race or anything like that. It's just as a group, because, they're a minority group in a population, and the media, this was a conversation I had after one of my events because I brought it up on stage, and then there happened to be a whole bunch of former pro athletes that were in the crowd, and then we actually started gathering around and we started kind of unpacking it because I said, I'm curious about this. I have a couple of my reasons already that I know to be true from my clients because we just discuss it, and then a few others. We were standing around talking, and one of the gentlemen said, they're like, it's really interesting that you said that on stage, and thank you for saying it because, in today's day and age, typically a white male guy isn't going to go up there and bring up something about race. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, because I don't adopt the same social tropes that everyone else is falling into the trap of. Like, I mean, it's a joke, a lot of the stuff that's being talked about nowadays. And people are just finding excuses to just be freaking average right now. Like, people need to, like, sack up and, deal with life because it ain't perfect. It's not supposed to be. For all of us. Like, the idea that somehow a white guy like me hasn't had any issues in life.
Right.
Read my backstory because you're going to find a few.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, the one guy was saying that growing up, I didn't have anyone on television that looked like me. And so when I'm watching Friends, what I did in my own head was I converted Monica and Chandler and Rachel and Ross and everybody into who would play those characters if they were black. So just the fact that they just stayed really glued into their creative imagination more so than, because a lot of our thinking is done for us.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't need to pretend that Ross is something else.
You know what else?
And the other one was that they have a high rate of lack. They have a lot of them come from single family homes. They have a mom. They don't have a dad.
Right.
And so they would play in their own head who would be their dad.
Right.
And that one was like, when he shared that one, that's when everyone was like, mic drop. And even me, I was like, oh my God,
gold.
That makes so much sense, so much gold. So yeah, as a group, because again, some people are like, they kind of really want to use the idea of the alter ego.
Sure.
But some people are so concerned about, but is this about being inauthentic? Or I just want to be authentic, and why can't I just be my real self and all that? And I'm like, well, how's that working for you?
I want to talk about that in a minute. This takes me back very vividly, actually, to my high school days. I was studying everything from Aikido to Wing Chun to karate through most of my teens and into my early 20s. And there was one particular British-born Chinese guy. His name was Justin at high school. But he was adopted by a white family here in the UK. And I remember the first time I ever met him, I'm still a massive Bruce Lee fan.
Yeah.
Huge Bruce Lee fan. And so I saw him over the playground. It was like a week into the first new term of school or whatever, and I saw him over the playground, and he was sort of almost being bullied, but he kind of wasn't. And I could see a couple of the guys kind of giving him some crap, but he was standing up for himself, and he did this, huh? Which Bruce used to do a lot. The cockiness kind of thing, right? Yeah. And I thought, it's all going to kick off here. This is going to be great. But afterwards, I went over to the guy and I was like, I saw you doing that. And he goes, yes, my hero, Bruce Lee. Whenever I feel like I'm backed into a corner, I just pretend that I'm Bruce.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's great. And we became friends. But then obviously, as I got to know him better, the family thing, being adopted, and it was his way of being able to, come out of some sort of shell, or like the Superman thing, ripping off the shirt or whatever. 100%,
right? Yeah. And then that's just a perfect example of we actually do a lot of these things naturally. That's what I'm talking about in the book is is showing people that you've actually done most of these things already. I just spent a lot of years noticing these things and then packaging it up into a system that basically was like flicking the natural psychological switches that are already existing in people's heads to unlock performance.
Yes.
So it's natural. And I mean, at the end of the day, all of the stuff that I've ever done in my entire professional career has been about one goal, how can I get people into the zone in the flow state? Everything I do has to be, all avenues and streets have to be leading back to there, because that's where all of someone's capabilities comes out. Like unfettered from terrible self-talk or self-judgment or concern and worry about what other people are thinking of them, what's happening in the circumstance in the situation or whatever, and using the creative imagination and being playful. Playfulness is the key thing here, because playfulness is what young children between the ages of 1 and 7 are doing so naturally.
Yes.
So I find that fascinating. Well, what is it about that age? What's going on in their brain? Turns out what's going on in their brain between the age of 1 and 7 is they are locked in what's called the theta brainwave state. Theta brainwave state, if you know, there's delta, which is like super deep restful sleep. Theta is like creative access. You also access it during sleep time. Then there's alpha, and then there's beta. Alpha is like really good focus. And then beta is like higher thinking skills. It's like reasoning and judgment. It's a lot of times what's happening in like an interview like this. That's why, a lot of times in long form interviews, you end up getting the best content in about the last 35, 40 minutes. Right. Because there's a flow that was developed.
Right.
So, but we're pros. We can get into it in like a minute.
Dude, you rocked it out after like 3 seconds.
It didn't take long at all. Didn't take long at all. So theta brainwave state. So I find that fascinating. Then what are they all doing in theta brainwave state between 1 and 7? Well, one of the things that's coming out of that age gap is that it's the highest degree of personal development, right? Like that's where you learn everything. Is in that state. Well, that's fascinating to me. Again, to be curious with this stuff. And what else are they doing? Well, they're being super playful, right? They're all playing with their identity all the time.
Yes.
What could I do if I was a nurse, or I'm a teacher now, or hey, do you want to play dolls? And all this.
It's like my kid's walking around with a lightsaber all the time, hitting me all the time.
And you should now.
Yeah. I got
seriously,
one.
Yeah.
We actually ordered another one. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the great joy of having kids around our home that are so young now is that they truly bring the playfulness back. So my point about that is playfulness is this like magical golden key to unlock it's the final lock to open up kind of that zone and flow state for people.
Let's wrap up on this. I'm curious to know what your thought process is on this real quick. How and where does authenticity come into all of this? Because some people might say, well, if you're being somebody else, even if it's just inside your own brain, you're not being authentic to yourself.
The reality is everyone's being someone else.
Right.
Not everyone is actually acting through, because most people don't really know who they are. And even that question alone, who are you? It's actually a trapping question in my world. I don't ask anyone, who are you? Because who are you is a trap, because there's no one you, right? Everyone knows this. That's why the about page on your website and the resume that you write are the hardest 2 documents you'll ever write in your life. Yeah. Because everyone knows, it's like, well, I'm way more than this page. I'm way more than this bullet point of resume, And then, if you follow the breadcrumbs on this, you'll show that there's many things that we do as human beings that are traps. The idea of you. There is no one you. Okay, I talk about it. I'm not going to go into it because people watch the keynote, and I talk about multiple self theory. Mm-hmm. There's no one you. There is a body that houses many forms of me that show up on different fields of play and roles in my life. So authenticity and authentic self, I think that they are the words have value. I get what people mean by that. But most people are using that idea of authenticity and authentic self as a virtue signal nowadays to basically excuse away shitty behavior. Yeah. It's like, oh, that was just me being authentic. No, that was you being an asshole, actually. That's just you not being very nice.
Call it what it is, right? Yeah.
That's not being authentic. That's you lacking the skill of maybe how to handle people that just don't act like you do.
Right.
Right? And so, so I don't play around with that idea. I think if more people thought of, okay, I'm going to build my own world. And when I think of that person's world over there, that person, just ignore the beeping sounds. We don't charge for sounds here.
No,
whatsoever.
It's free.
Yeah, it's all free.
Sounds are free, and we're in the city of London. Yeah, they're the best sounds in the world.
They're just backing up the truck to this interview to load us up and take us away.
The sound guy's sitting over there with his headphones thinking, what the heck am I going to do?
There you go. Saved you.
There you go. You're done.
4 hours of work saved. That was me being authentic.
So, yeah.
So anyways, I just think that, so if someone else wants to worry about authenticity and authentic self, go right ahead.
Fair enough.
As someone, I've been on the field of play for 17,000 plus hours working with some of the top elite humans on the planet in sport, entertainment, Hollywood, public figures, leaders, business people. And I have never heard one of them ever say to me or in an interview, you know what was the real secret to my success? Authenticity and authentic self. Because when you think about like how we all end up having to break through things for ourselves to get to that next level, we always come up against this comfort zone, which isn't something that's out there. It's actually something in here that we have to break through to find another gear, another identity, another way that we see ourselves that can have that next milestone, right? And so if that's the case, then 6 months ago, were you being inauthentic? Because now today you're slightly different. So I don't know. It just doesn't. I don't. You know, everyone else can worry about those words. I'm not going to.
Fair play.
And it actually lightens the load then. You know, and it's a word that I think traps many people because it inside of that word nowadays, because it's become a meme more than anything else. Because words they become tropes, they become memes, and I think it's a concern of worrying about what other people are thinking of you. And I'm like, why do I care if you think I'm being authentic? I just don't care. I'm showing up today. I know I'm always going to show up and I'm going to be kind to people. That's just a baseline that I have. Yeah. Even though I'm a tough, challenging personality type, I'm not going to be a dick to people. I just know I'm not because it's not in me to do that. So, that's what I think about that.
That's it. Todd Herman, not being a dick.
Which is crazy because my first name's Richard, so I could be a dick. Which would be very authentic, because that's the short form.
But we still got the weekend. There's still plenty of time.
Plenty of time.
Thank you, brother, for being here. Appreciate
Absolutely.
you more than you know. You guys, toddherman.com, links to everything below the video. Make sure you go check him out a little bit more. And we'll link to his keynote that he did at the summit as well.
Join us in the next episode of Inside the Chrome Dome with Chris Ducker.
We'll be back at you again next month. Bye for now.